Just letting me in. Let's see, no diamond. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, we'll be on EdDeanRadio.com.
Ah.
Two webcasts will be coming up here in the next several weeks.
Cool.
Let's do it like this.
Oh, did you see the caricature of me in the paper this morning?
No, yeah.
Yeah, go on FT today.
Right, let me get going with this, and I'll check it up just a little bit.
It says perfect 2014 candidate, so I wrote a little blurb.
Huh.
Both smart for words.
Those are always a front name for a bunch of groups.
Oh yeah. Oh, it was a ride though. They didn't put the hair part on the right side, the correct side. I want to thank Florida today for not yours.
That's fine. Is this going?
I don't know.
There we go.
There you are.
Don't worry about that. That's just it's always got a 45-second lapse.
Cool. I want to thank Florida today for not yours.
I'm just trying to get the volume down. All right, more of we're ready. All right, it's the Ed Dean Radio Show. Man, I hate these new. I got a brand new computer, and it's like, there we go. I just gotta just turn some stuff down. There we go. All right, Ed Dean Radio Show. Heard all throughout the state. We broadcasting live out of our flagship station, AM 1300 WMEL, all throughout Brevard County and the Space and Treasure Coast. The email address, eddeanradio@gmail.com, eddeanradio@gmail.com. Shannon Gessling from the Southeastern Legal Foundation, Kevin Derby from Sunshine State News. Santa Bookcart running for judge is supposed to be here. If they have not confirmed, then that's, I mean, you know, they'll keep Michael Hartman longer. Whatever. Michael Hartman run for Brevard County Commission District 2, one of the candidates. Website's electmichaelhartman.com. Okay, you're running in a Republican primary. Have you indirectly run into some Democrats, independents, and what is some of their take? I mean, are they like in agreement with some of the Republicans on some of the issues? Or are they a little more like, hey, we're not buying up enough lands? I mean, I know you've probably talked to a few Democrats. What's their view on what's going on?
I'll tell you what, for the most part, the people in this county, whether they're Democrat, Republican, Independent, they're more worried on a local level about financial issues. When you talk to Democrats, Republicans, Independents, they all care about the same thing. How much money is coming out of my pocket to fund government, and can you make it smaller and so that I pay less? I'll tell you what, I've got some Democrats who are more fiscally conservative than half of the current county commissioners that I've met. So,
oh really?
Oh yeah, it's when it comes to finances, everybody wants more money in their pocket. They want less money. They want needed services. They want safety, police and fire. They want roads, water, and sewer. They want that infrastructure. They know we need courts and libraries and waste management. But a lot of the other things they can do without. They don't need a $6.5 million payment to rebuild a mall. They don't need a $3 million welcome center. They don't need a $67,000 statue. They don't think we should have bought the land where the Crab Shack is and paid $4.5 million for the land and improvement. And they say, like I do, they don't care if it's federal money, state money, or local money. Ultimately, it's money coming out of all of our pockets.
Where do let me see. How do I have known Mary Boland. I'm not. This is not a dig at anybody specific. I've known Mary for 20 years. She's a fan of the show. I I don't hang out with Chuck Nelson. He's been pleasant to me. I've met Robin Fisher. He's been pleasant to me. I mean, Trudy's Trudy. Andy, I mean, I get along with. Here's the thing. And I'm not saying this is you. I'm just saying when I hear people out there that I don't like this person. My point is okay, I can get along with some of these people. I don't like their votes, some of them, and some of their votes, but I get along with them personally. I think again, I'm not saying you, a lot of candidates running, we have always focused too much on the individual. I've always said, listen, I'm not an Obama fan. My problem is not with Obama, it's with the issues, all right? And if you take care of the issues, it'll take care of the people. That's how I say it. And I think we take care more of the issues. Has this become, in a lot of these races, too much driven on the individual, and we less focus on the issues?
I think it's a mix of both. There is a current outlook. There is an outlook by a lot of people that there is a lot of consternation on the county commission right now. And you know what? After people have been together for 6 years, which they all been, it's hard for people to deal with each other all the time and not ultimately maybe get a little bit set in their positions. But I think realistically, from the people I've talked to, they're looking more at the issue. And I think the candidates reflect the issues and what they see. For myself, my biggest 3 issues are, number one, bringing back the idea that the county commission and the staff are public servants. They are not public dictators. We have to bring that back, and I don't think that mood exists right now. Number 2, I think we have a budget that has ballooned up too high. I think there are areas where we can cut the budget and cut the property tax rate for the taxpayers. Number 3, I think that cutting the tax rate for everybody is going to bring jobs, because when people have more money in their pocket, they're going to go out and spend a little more, and the businessmen are going to have money in their pockets so they can do the expansion necessary to meet that additional demand. But the other thing we have to look at is a change in regulations. I think we have too many regulations.
Give me a couple.
Okay, give you an idea. Okay, boat company is going to move from the port to a facility on Merritt Island. Up and running facility. Okay, yes, the pipes in the business are old, the current building are old, but it's an up and running building. It's been there. It's been what? First off, if somebody's moving into an up and running building, existing building, why should they have to go through the entire process as if we just built that building? That doesn't make any sense to me. But in this particular case, they knew they had to replace some of the sewer pipes, okay? But the sewer pipes are still working. Like I say, it's an up and running building. So they asked for a temporary permit and give them 60 days to replace the sewer pipe. And they were told no. Instead, you've got to shut down for 60 days until we get around to examine your business. That's not the way to promote business. That's not the way at all. I talked to other people who are trying to open up restaurants and other businesses, and the headaches are almost insurmountable. The people I talk to ultimately work through them, but it costs them time and money. And when you put those impediments in the way, other people are going to just say, nope, I'll go elsewhere.
Michael Hartman, one of the guys running for the Brevard County Commission, District 2, electmichaelhartman.com, on the Republican side. I have so many questions here. The sales tax. It was voted down barely in 2012. Looks like there's talk on the school side. It's going to be brought back up again. Is it something that you think the voters will vote in favor of?
I'll tell you what, I think right now it's about a 50-50 coin toss. And let me tell you, the problem that I have is when you look at the stats, okay, we just saw in the paper the other day that we have 4,500 school teachers, we have 4,300 other staff at the Brevard County school system. I'm sorry, I've never seen a business where the business producers, i.e. the teachers, need a support staff of 1 for 1. So I have a hard time saying we need more revenue as opposed to looking at this administrative staff, I don't care what they want to call it. They'll play name games and they'll say, well, it's not administrative staff. It's non-teachers. And if you've got one non-teacher for every teacher, you've got too many. If they came back and said, yep, we're going to cut 1,400 of those non-teachers, then they could tell me personally, in my personal opinion, yes, you cut to the bone, and then you do need more revenue. Until you do that, I have a hard time supporting this.
Now, let me ask. Now, I know this. I think any tax increase proposed by the school or not, because they always try to co-opt it with the county commission. I understand why they do that, to try to broaden more support. So that's why I ask you this. I have entertained the issue. I've never voted for the sales taxes in the past because, in the 2000s when Brevard County had a boatload of revenue coming in, I was like, well, why are we raising taxes? Okay, whatever. Having said that, Michael, there have been some conservatives I've talked with that have said, there's an offshoot balance here. What if, okay, we'd go along with a quarter, a half-cent penny sales tax if they would then vote maybe to cut the school property tax by 5 or 10%. Is that an off balance you think a lot of people can maybe get on board with? With sales tax, but we cut the property school sales tax 10, 15, 20%. Do you think there could be a common agreement there maybe?
Well, if you're looking at that, you're going to be revenue neutral. Why have a new tax? Because let's look at it.
That's such a tricky word, revenue neutral. I've heard that a lot.
Yeah,
I've never really seen it.
If they're saying to us they're going to cut the property tax to equal the increase in the sales tax, well then why do we need to have two separate taxes?
I think you can get more revenue through sales tax. I support the fair tax. All right. I like a consumption tax because anytime the government knows that it wants more money, not going to get it through property taxes. It's going to get it through sales tax. But this is what I'm getting at. If I can get a bigger tax cut, whether it's $50, $60 a month, I don't care, or a year, but I'm not spending that much. Well, maybe it does balance out where I save more money because I wasn't taxed on money I didn't spend money on that I didn't want to buy a product. I know that sounds confusing.
Well, no, I'm just saying it gets back to the basic premise. Do they need more money or do they need to spend their money more wisely? And to me, it still gets back to the basic premise. I think the money could be spent.
But remember, there'll be more people that will contribute to. I'm not advocating. I'm just telling you. There'll be more people that would contribute to the sales tax everybody pays. Not everybody pays a property tax.
Correct.
So I guess that's what I'm saying.
And I look at that. I'm a CPA,
right?
And I'm a tax guy. I did taxes for 12 years. I advise my clients all the time how to save money on their taxes. And yet, you know what? If you want to get rid of the underground economy, have a national sales tax. Think about it. The guy that we're chasing because he didn't pay income taxes on $50 million, and I'm not saying I advocate this, but he made $50 million in drug profits last year. Well, guess what?
Legal drug profits?
Illegal drug profits, let's say. So let's say he did, and he didn't pay income taxes on it, but he's sitting there in a mansion in Miami, and he's got a Lamborghini and a Ferrari. Well, guess what? It doesn't matter if you've got a national sales tax. When he goes out and buys that Ferrari, guess what? He pays tax. When he goes out and buys that Lamborghini, he pays tax. We still need to go after him because he's dealing drugs illegally, and that's wrong. Okay. But at least we're getting money out of it.
And we're having fun today. And we'll get some more questions. But I think the reason why I offer an alternative, for example, and I think you know this, is because I don't think establishment that want to increase taxes will give you an offset to have your taxes cut. I say if you offer that, you might have it. You might be able to pass it. I just throw it out there because I don't think they'll offer. That's what I was saying.
I don't think they will either. I think they want more money. And like I say, just personally, and this is my personal opinion, I'm not convinced yet that they should get it.
Like what happened to the money before?
Yeah. Look at it. We spent money on things we didn't need on. What do we need these fancy signs out in front? I'm sorry. That's not what education is all about.
All right, let me do this. Let me take a quick break. I'll take a quick break right now. Michael Hartman, running for Brevard County Commission District 2. We've offered a couple of his other opponents some time, but they have not called back. But anyways, electmichaelhartman.com is the website, and I think Sam Bookhart's supposed to join us. If not, I'll let you hang out for a little bit. Shannon Gessling from the Southeastern Legal Foundation. There's going to be any more. Well, are there any more Obamacare lawsuits around the corner? We'll talk and debate that in a few moments, right here on the Talk to Me station, AM 1300 WMEL.com. By the way, if you want to watch us live on the air, you can go to eddeanradio.com, eddeanradio.com. Back in a few moments.
I like it. You come up with different kinds of questions.
Oh, I ask, yeah, I ask stuff that's out of the norm. See, that's people can still hear us. You see, that's why I will ask. Okay, would you cut the again because some people sit back and say, I'm saving $100 a year hypothetically in school sales tax. I'm not going to spend $100 in taxes buying goods. Yeah, you save money. Well, I'm getting everybody pays the sales tax. I'm saying it's kind of like the Retail Federation. I love the Retail Federation in Florida. They're for the internet sales tax, but they're saying, and they're conservatives, but we'd offshoot it with a cut in the sales tax. Okay, that kind of balances out. I'm like, you're going to raise my minimum wage, offset it with some business tax cuts, like they're 90. My point is I'll throw them a bone and see if they hang themselves. And most people, we're not going to offset it. Okay, well, fine. I offered you an alternative.
Yeah, and alternatives are great. I'm always willing to listen to alternatives. I love that. If Plan A doesn't work, go to Plan B.
Hey, Vince, can you hear the fan? Can you hear the fan? Okay, I better. Okay, I'll turn that a little bit low. Hey, let's go with Creedence.
I didn't think it was that bad.
Oh, that's low.
That's low. Yeah, you have to have that running in here. I can feel a little bit. It's cooled down here a little bit.
Good, that's what I want.
Drinking the water stuff. Yeah, unfortunately, as a candidate, like I was saying, the one thing that I really miss on Saturdays used to be my kind of casual day. I go golf in the afternoon. I never shaved in the morning. That was my one day. I just didn't shave.
Yeah. I got to shave now. We don't. Where do you golf? Oh, you already told me this last time.
Mostly Bay Tree. They just reopened on Monday. They reopened with the new green.
I play on it. I usually Bent Pine. I always tell people I'm a real Republican or conservative. I'm playing government golf courses. Just as a joke. The reason why I asked you about the Democrats, when I've done helping out with some of my friends that we mentioned earlier before the show, is I'll see a lot of your signs. Now, maybe for some reason why they weren't on my list to hit doors on, doesn't mean they're right. So I'm like, hey, this could be some NPAs that like Michael, could be some Dems. I haven't heard anything.
I got a funny story about that. Maybe we get back on the air about it, because it was a husband and wife, and you see this a lot more than you think, where one's a Dem and one's Republican.
All right, man, we're having more fun off the air than we have on the air. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, that's okay.
I want you to tell your story in a second. Michael Hartman running for Brevard County Commission, District 2. I think Sam Bookhart running for judge is supposed to join us. Kevin Derby from the SunshineStateNews.com. Jeb Bush came out today against the medical marijuana. Does that really make any difference? I don't know. We'll talk about that in a little bit at the top of the hour. Shannon Gessling from the Southeastern Legal Foundation out of Atlanta. They're talking about is there any more upcoming Obama lawsuits? And evidently there's going to be. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. You want to watch us live on the air? You can go to eddeanradio.com, eddeanradio.com, or our friends at spacecoastdaily.com/ed. The email address, eddeanradio@gmail, eddeanradio@gmail. Michael Hartman, like michaelhartman.com. Tell me the story. Is this related to the one I asked about?
Yeah, this relates to the question about meeting Democrats and independents.
All right.
Many of the houses that I've gone to, one spouse is a Democrat, one is a Republican. Okay, so it's kind of a mixed household. I remember this one house I went to, the wife was a Republican, the husband was a Democrat. But when I walked up, he was out in the garage, the Democrat. So we started talking. He's a doctor, very healthy gentleman, does triathlons. I mean, he was going out for a bike ride in the middle of the heat of the day. Looked like a triathlete. And we started talking about things. And by the time we got done, not only did he say, I'm going to get my wife to vote for you, but do you have a yard sign?
Okay.
And then the funny part of the story was she controls the yard, but he controlled these big flower pots in the front of the yard. So he says, give me the yard sign. And he sticks it in the flower pot, and he says, now she can't touch it.
If the two can reason together, and I have a lot of liberals who listen to my show. When I post things on Facebook, I don't call them a bunch of commie socialists. I'm like, hey, well, I'm just trying to start up a conversation, and they like that. We don't have this, it seems to be in the Brevard County Commission. Why?
I'm not sure why, because I think people can work together. When I was appointed to the board of the County Housing Authority, we had a diverse group of business people, all of whom are used to being, they're leaders. Okay, we had 2 bankers, a mortgage broker, and a partner at a law firm, and another business person and myself. So we had 6 business leaders. Now, we had, basically when we went over issues and, we were running the housing authority like a business, we would have great back and forth. And, it wasn't always, okay, we're going to go with option A, but we always had an option B in case option A didn't work. But we all, at the end of the day, respected each other. And giving you an idea of how well I can work with other people, yes, I was elected chairman in 2009 because I have the most affordable housing experience. But that same board re-elected me chairman in 2010, 11, 12, and 13. So obviously they liked my management style as the chairman of the board, because as the chairman of the board, you're running meetings, you're kind of setting the agenda, and evidently it reflects, I think, fairly well on me that I was able to gather together a diverse group of business people, and we were able to channel our efforts and successfully turn around what was a failing entity when we got there.
When you've done forums, I'm a conservative, but I will tell you, now, I'm not saying this one or the other. I haven't seen it because I haven't seen all the forums. Sometimes I've seen some of the videos. There were people that play to the crowd. Liberals try to out-liberal. I'm going to raise taxes by 10. No, I'll raise taxes by 12%. Conservatives, I'll cut taxes by 10. No, I'll cut them by 11%. I see them too much trying to play to the crowd, trying to placate when really they don't know what they're talking about. Sensationalize the crowd. Do we see that a lot of that these days in county politics?
I would have to say not. I think when I look at the other candidates, they've been pretty solid in their positions.
Okay.
I haven't seen a lot of sensationalism out of any of them. I mean, I think they're all good people who think that they have the best ideas for the county. Now, definitely there is a diverse lot. I would say probably I am more the person who believes that we need change in the county. Some other people have advocated that we don't have much latitude, and therefore taxes and spending are going to go up. Some other people think that everything that the county is doing right now is just right and doesn't really need improvement. So if you go and look at our debates, and there's a debate on SpaceCoastDaily.com from back in February, where all 4 candidates were there for an hour and a half. We all answered the same questions. And you can see that, none of us are sensationalists, but we all have our own individual ideas of how things should work in the county.
Now, I feel what we do. We've still got about a minute and a half. I'm going to still keep you over. I don't see, now Sam could be out in the green room. I don't know if he's not. I still want to, because I got some other questions I want to ask you. Real quick, about a minute and a half left. And have we, not from you guys, but have we seen any polls in this race on issues? I mean, I know they poll, hey, Michael Hartman versus Jim Varfield or Chuck or whatever, some guy maybe up by 10, maybe down by 10. Have they polled anything on issues that was a top tier issue, like growth, Indian River Lagoon, taxes? Has anything been going on?
I haven't seen any polls on that, actually.
Nothing going on.
There's one of the candidates, or I've been told by other people that other people are taking polls. I know I've been called at least twice by somebody else's polling group asking.
They want to know if you're supporting marijuana. That's what.
No, they wanted to know. Yeah, they wanted to know if I was supporting Michael Hartman or not. I thought it was pretty funny that they were calling my house to get my opinion on their poll. So I thought that was pretty funny. But
no polls on the issues.
I haven't seen any polls on the issues really yet. I haven't been called on medical marijuana or on Amendment 1 or anything like that. Which, if we could talk about Amendment 1 when we get back, I'd love to talk about it.
Yeah, Amendment 1's pretty interesting amendment here. All right, more of the Ed Dean Radio Show. Michael Hartman, and it's always my headset. There we go. Back in a few moments. Michael Hartman here on the Ed Dean Radio Show. EdDeanRadio@gmail.com is the email address. You can watch us live on the air on WMEL at EdDeanRadio.com.
Sorry, I haven't seen any juicy stories yet on that.
You know, my wife, who works for American Football, who are hardcore. So that's what Rocket.
Yeah, Rocket working for him there.
Yeah, I told Lisa to hire Rocket. Anyways. Johnny,
Barefoot Day. No, we haven't been at Merritt Island because we have a whole area to walk. I said, yeah. But Vero Beach, but also in the South Florida area. Remember, she talks to MPAs, Democrats, just ask.
Right, everybody.
And the top two issues that they hate is the illegal immigration thing going on.
Oh, absolutely. I don't
It's
think
different than what
anybody
you
likes that.
And then second, I mean, maybe that's is it freaking all over Florida? You know?
Oh yeah, and that's not good for us. That's not good for us anyway.
I gotta stand up to it. It's out of all the train proposals. Now I'm just beyond. It's the most. If you had to, it's gun to my head. It's the most credible one. If you had,
Right.
It's. I mean, I know it's a loan, not a subsidy. I understand all that. And I just, I've been told that there's going to have to be some state money. I'm told there is no state money. That
Well, they're showing $30 million for the train station in OIA.
Well, and Kevin Derby came on, and Kevin calls down. Kevin says, "Well, you could be looking at 40 to 50 million alone to fix certain things in the area, which means either the counties have to pick it up or they ask the state for the grant to do it. That the Fed ain't going to do it." Then, yeah. And my other question is if this was really all private venture, would we still have a problem with it? It's the only thing I get. I see liberals have no conscience. That's why. But the problems of my conservative friends is they're all over the map. I'm just like, guys, just for example, if I dislike Obama, it's based on the fiscal matters. I mean, I know.
Right. It's on the issue.
That's right. But my point is, I mean, are you really against? I mean, give me a good hardcore issue against all aboard Florida. Is it because it is not making a stop, or is it too loud, or do you believe there's going to be taxpayers' money? Give me a good. Just give me one. Don't give me 10. Just give me a good one.
I think it's going to be too many crossings, too many times a day.
Well, their argument is that before the recession hit, you had 32 freight trains going by it instead of 100 miles an hour, 20 miles an hour. Okay, whatever. But I mean, I'm with you on that.
Really that many?
Yeah, they said it was 32 until the recession hit. Now, of course, that's their numbers, but okay, that's fine. I want a strong one that instead of 4 or 5, 10.
I'll tell you what, at 110 mile per hour, though, boy, it ain't going to be much time. I mean, you're going to have those gates down a lot earlier, I think. Now, it's going to get through there, and then it's going to be gone.
Yeah.
So, but it just, I don't remember. I lived in Rockledge, and I worked at the port.
Right.
And this was before they did the whole interchange at 95. You know, they only had a half an interchange. So you couldn't go north on 95 and then go east on 528 back then when I worked 20 years ago. You couldn't do that. You had to go through the back way. So a lot of times, you know, I cut through all the cities. And, you know, it just seemed like getting...
Hold on. Van Halen. Yeah,
it just seemed like every time, you know, you get stuck at that thing
right.
for a freight train, especially if you get one that's got... I
hate the slow freight train.
If it's got 3 engines, you're talking 140 cars.
Yeah. My point is that they say there's no state money, but I think the problem is they told one group one thing, and they told another group another thing. I think that's what's happening, as you know.
I mean, that can happen, you know, but still, I don't even think it's a question so much of the money as I think it is a question of just cutting these cities in half. I really do. I mean, and I know the train was there first.
Yeah.
That's true. I mean, we should have put the cities all on one side or the other.
But you know something? I don't know if the DEP has come back and given them I mean, they're still doing it. They're still checking things out. The Environmental Protection in Florida, if they say no, I mean, East Coast Railway is pretty powerful. I don't know if they're that powerful.
What, in terms of...
If the DEP comes back and says, we don't think it's environmental friendly, we're not writing off on it. Remember, you got to go through certain levels of the government.
I don't know if they're going to have to because they've already got the land there. And I mean, in terms of...
I own land too, but if there's a tortoise on it, I can't build.
Well, no, that's true.
So, no, I'm not... And
I doubt if there's a tortoise there, though. There's a train already going through there. I'll make a bet with you on that. You won't find any tortoises, one way or the other.
All right, more of the Ed Dean Radio Show. Hold on. So I don't see. Hold on. Just hold that thought. Let me just stand up for a second.
Yeah. Go see if Sam's here.
Sam, you here? No, he's not. Okay, so I'm going to keep Michael Hartman over here, running for Brevard County Commission District 2. Other candidates have been invited. The email address is eddeanradio@gmail.com. eddeanradio@gmail.com. You want to watch me live on the air? Just go to eddeanradio.com. eddeanradio.com. There was a question here sent out. Everybody emails me. I get blanket emails from everybody. And one of it was like 16 questions that was asked. I don't know if it was by the Liberty Caucus. I don't know. I knew they're active, which is fine. But a couple of the questions is something I brought up yesterday's radio show. Will you fire Scott Knox? Will you do Stockton Whitman? And before we go down this road, again, to me, I didn't realize that Linda Weatherman, the EDC, was a top one issue. I didn't realize, to some people, I didn't realize that Stockton Whitman, the county manager, Scott Knox, the county attorney, was more important than the school sales tax, was more important than the Inner River Lagoon. I didn't realize that these individuals were more important than raising my property taxes. How did these individuals get elevated than more in some of these issues?
For certain groups, the individuals are the issues,
Okay.
evidently. Now, let me tell you about that. That was filled out back, I believe, I did it in January, okay? And
I didn't see what your results were.
no,
Someone just
well,
emailed
I'll
the
tell you,
questions.
I'll tell you. And a lot of people are saying that, yeah, that I said that I would consider, okay? I didn't say I would absolutely do it. I said I would consider those things, okay? But I'm a person who learns, gathers information, and modifies his stance based upon what he's learned. So let's go through this. When you look at it, I've had some great meetings with Stockton Whitman in the last month. When we were at the budget workshop, he had a 1,057-page budget, and he had a great spreadsheet. Yes, 1,057 pages.
Man, that ranks
Okay.
up there with the Obamacare.
So he had a great spreadsheet that showed by department how much each department's budget was in terms of spending. So what I asked him to do as a tool, if his staff could expand that sheet and show by department the sources of funding that supported that spending.
I like that. Okay, go ahead.
And so when I met with him a couple weeks later, the first thing he did was gave me that sheet. Now I've got a roadmap, and there's a roadmap for every citizen in this county that before you start having to dig into the 1,057 pages, you can look and see where our tax dollars are going and what departments are spending them the most. That's the places that we want to concentrate on, because that's how you bring down the county tax rate. So Stockton did a great job on it, and that's the way I've always been in business. The county commissioner's job is to set policy and make decisions. The county manager and his staff's job is to implement those decisions.
Right.
If they're implementing the decisions the way we want them done and they're doing a good job at it, that's perfectly fine. If they're not, then you have a problem and you hold people accountable.
I understand some people are just so angry, and I can feel. I felt that with many politicians on both sides. Let's just get rid of everybody. Who are you voting for? D, none of the above. C, and get rid of them all. And let's just get rid of everybody. I understand that. But what I'm getting at is that when I've sat down with some of my conservative friends and they're angry at Stockton or whatever, or they're angry at Scott Knox or the school superintendent, I always sit back and say, why are you angry at these guys? They should not, they're not the decision makers. The county commission has the final say. The school board has the final say. If you're not happy with Scott Knox for whatever reason, or Stockton Whitman, or the school superintendent, you talk to your school board elected official, or you talk to your Brevard County commissioner. You do something about the issue, it will take care of the problem. And I just didn't realize that the individuals became a top-tier issue.
Well, I'll tell you what, like I say, I've evolved in my thinking. And when I was at that budget workshop, I had an epiphany about the staff versus the county commission. Like I say, we got a 1,057-page budget. The county manager gave them a 7-page summary of items that aren't even being addressed by this budget. So what did we do? After he got done his presentation, 2 of the commissioners spoke for about 15 minutes, realized the rest of the commission wasn't really interested in having a discussion, and gave up. So we have millions of dollars of things that need to be addressed, and the county commission
Just wrote off.
they're not giving any direction. And you're
Just
right.
right up on it.
It's the same thing with the school board. The school board sets policy, makes decisions. They are not supposed to be a rubber stamp. The county staff is looking for direction, and they will follow whatever they're given by the county commissioner. So if the county commissioners just punt and say, well, do the same as last year, What's the county staff supposed to do?
By the way, Michael Hartman running for Brevard County Commission on the Republican side, electmichaelhartman.com. Is this one? See, I don't sit. I have seen this before as a former news reporter, where they'll come in. I see city council people done this. Well, they make a bad vote. They realize it. Oh, well, staff was telling. Well, no. Well, staff is like a financial advisor to a board of directors. They give you advice, pros and cons. Sometimes the county attorney, sometimes you got different advice, but you still have to do your homework and make the responsibility. I've seen where they blame staff, but you can't blame staff. The county commissioners still the final authority.
The county commissioners have the responsibility. You can delegate authority. You cannot delegate responsibility. It is their job to do it. And here's the biggest problem we have in government, in my opinion. Everybody's afraid to admit a mistake. In the business world, everybody's going to have an oops. I've developed over 100 apartment complexes and rental complexes in my 21 years. I've got 3 or 4 oopses, but you should be batting in the 900s. You're going to be a successful business person. If you're batting 1,000, you're missing opportunity. The problem is we have to be willing to say, okay, plan A didn't work. Let's go to plan B. But that's what you got to do. Too many people in government sit there and they're frozen. They refuse to make a decision, letting things fester, hoping it'll solve itself. That's not the way you run.
I've only had a few oops, and that was allowing certain people to come on the radio show that, we're having a prayer anyways, but I invited them to come on, stuff like that. Not you, I'm just saying some other ones in the past. So, not saying speaking for any groups, I'm just curious. Why are some groups has just an infatuation, it seems to be, where they're making Scott Knox, Linda Weatherby, EDC as part of an ultimatum that these guys are going to become county commission, you get rid of these guys. Is this a personality war? I mean, is there a legit argument against the EDC? I mean, or what has elevated these individuals to be a top tier issue on a questionnaire, whether or not it is part of the Brevard County Commission ideology or whatever?
I mean, each group has its own separate things that they find very important. And one group may find individuals important, one group may find other issues important, And sometimes there gets to be a mix between issues and personalities. Give you a for instance, okay? Other people address economic development and the EDC as if they were one and the same. They're not. They're two totally separate things. Yes, as a businessman, I want economic development because I want us to grow. I've seen the two extremes of what happens. I've developed in Miami-Dade. People leave Miami-Dade to come to us because they want to get away from that rat race. On the other hand, I also developed in Charlotte County. In Charlotte County, they have absolutely zero industry. You have 2 classes of people in Charlotte County, the retirees and the service providers that service for their needs, okay? And that's all you have there. If you look at Charlotte County, you've got hospitals, doctors, dentists, gas stations, car dealerships, boat dealerships, all the service industries, no manufacturing in the entire county. It's just 2 classes of people. We don't want to go that way, but we don't want to be Miami-Dade, in my opinion. And I don't think that's what people want. And I've talked to thousands of people now, and I don't hear anybody saying they want us to become Miami-Dade County. But let me finish real quick. Okay, so we want economic growth, but I don't have enough data right now to tell me, am I, as the county, are we getting the best bang for the buck by funding the EDC versus funding a different mechanism to promote economic development? I don't care that they've had an audit. An audit doesn't tell you anything. We are funding 75% of their budget. We need to see everything in that budget. We need to see how much is entertainment, where it's going. We need to see salary because we are providing the goal, and a business who provides the goal makes the rules.
As you know, we talk about the issues on the Ed Dean radio show, so let me be fair and balanced. Let me play devil's advocate.
Okay.
There are those supporters saying, hey, candidates, not just you, several others, they're unfairly bashing the EDC. Look what's going on. SpaceX is growing a little bit. Look at Grumman bringing in more jobs. They say the EDC is doing its job. if they're doing its job according to those supporters of EDC. Some people sat back and said they've been unfairly been thrown under the bus by certain candidates here. But they must be bringing in jobs. If Grumman's coming through and hiring more, the tax abatement looks like it's going to get voted in pretty heavily again. SpaceX bringing in jobs. What do you say to that?
Okay, let's address a couple of those things in order. First thing, the tax abatement. Yes, we need to pass that. I'm not saying that we need to use it in all circumstances or in any circumstance.
I like the tax.
But understand one thing: if we don't put that in, it's gone. And if it's gone, we have no chance of using it, even if we wanted to use it in a certain circumstance. But here's where I look at it. This is what I have seen to date from, and I've talked with Greg Weiner extensively, and I had a 2.5-hour meeting with Linda Weatherman, and she said she wanted to talk to me again, which is fine. I'd love to meet with her. We as the county, and again, here's another example. The county commission has set rules where they have delegated to the chairman of the county commission to be the person to meet with the EDC during negotiations. Okay, I'm a CPA. I know about non-disclosure because confidentiality is part of my ethics. Okay, so I have told the EDC that I would not have a problem signing a non-disclosure agreement, not telling anybody anything. I would think the EDC would want the commissioners to be more involved up front because it makes no sense for the EDC, in my mind, to negotiate a deal that crosses a line that the commission is not going to find acceptable. So I would think they'd want our input more up front. And if, in fact, business people who have extensive experience negotiating, such as myself, are on the county commission, I think we can lend something positive to the negotiation.
So what you're saying is, and I'm not putting words in your mouth, I mean, if people, supporters of the EDC, sit back and say, Michael, or whoever, we're bringing in jobs, like I said a few moments ago. My question was, if they could brag about SpaceX and brag about some other filling of the supply that was needed at NASA, look at Grumman and everything else, we're trying to do our best, and you guys are trying to put a wrench into the car wheels here or the bike wheels here. Let us do our job. You're not saying it's that. You're just saying, hey, we want to be part of it. Is that what you're saying?
That's what I'm saying. Okay. We need to be more involved up front. I mean, I'm looking at some of these things, and I called what happened with Grumman about 5 months ago in front of the county commission when they were getting ready to do the second deal with Embraer.
Right.
Because if you remember, the second deal with Embraer is not a 10-year deal. It's, in fact, a 20-year deal. And at the same time that was going on, Boeing in the state of Washington was using the leverage of threatening to move the production of their new 777 long range to another state to get an extension on their tax abatement. The state of Washington, they got the state of Washington to give them an abatement through 2040. And that was an extension of their current abatement that's gone on for decades. So they are not a taxpayer in Washington. And when we decide to give a 20-year abatement to Embraer on the second one, I said, you watch. This is a progression. The next one, they're going to come in, they're going to be like Boeing and say, I don't want to pay taxes ever. And that is the downside to the Grumman deal. They are never going to pay taxes the way it is structured.
Well, you're true, but if you're a supply sider, I like some supply side. They got to buy gas, they got to buy clothes, sales tax, gas tax, got to buy a home. There's a property millage rate for the county and the school board. Does it trickle down then?
And there is to a certain extent, but I'd have to look at. I don't think that there's quite a balance there. I mean, and I'm looking at, for instance, like as an apartment manager. If I give somebody 1 month off on their rent, I don't give it on the first month. I give it on the 12th month. So let's say if Embraer, if we were going to give them a 20-year tax abatement.
Sounds more like a businessman, not a property manager.
Okay. So what we say is, okay, we'll give you 2 years off taxes, then give me 2 years where you pay taxes, and we'll go back and forth. So over a 40-year period,
sounds more like a lawyer than anything, in a good way. Michael Hartman's going to hang out with us till 6 o'clock, and then from the Southeastern Legal Foundation, Jenny Gessling, and then also Kevin Derby from the Sunshine State News. I'm going to ask Michael Hartman what type of a candidate is he, in a very interesting way.
So it'll be good. Back in a few moments, Ed Dean Radio. Because my thing is like, I'm with you. I see where you're coming across. Listen, bring in jobs. We just want to be part of the process. Okay, that's fine. You explain it. Because my question is if you had to look, I don't care if it was mom and pop shops or 10 jobs here or whatever, does there become an area where you sit back and say, okay, we're spending so much with EDC, we'd like to see 2,000 new jobs over a year and a half.
Right.
You put a number on. Like, you meet the number, we're extending the contract. Like we do in business. You and I both business.
We do in business. Here's your goal.
Are we going to go down something like that maybe? Or something you get, because the economy's still not the greatest.
No, I mean that, I don't know if you said that so much as it's more involvement. I want to be more involved in things. Right now, the way it works is they negotiate a deal. Nobody knows what it is except for maybe the chairman. And then at the last minute, it's presented and said, this is the best you're going to get. And I don't know if it's the best
among people. It's just there's no disclosure going on.
Yeah, there's no disclosure. Even the 4 or the 5 county commissioners, basically at the end, they get told, because what good is it to tell the chairman? He can't talk to anybody else. Until you have a vote.
Are they allowing you guys any time to talk? They just introduce you, like, said, hey, how you doing? I mean, tonight?
No, we get 2 minutes. Everybody gets 2 minutes.
Good.
Everybody gets 2 minutes every month.
Good.
Every month, whoever's
you
there.
Go up or you just stand up?
No, go up to the front.
How many people show up at the REC? 100?
Breck is anywhere from 60 to 100.
Yeah, we used to have 180, 200 people back in the days.
Yeah, not now. Maybe 100. Yeah, you got so many splinter groups now. I mean, I go to an average of 2 meetings a week, sometimes 3.
It's people trying to, and I'm hardcore. It's just I find people trying to. I mean, be a common sense hardcore. They hear it sound like they're just trying to outright wing each other outright. I mean, guys, really?
Yeah, and some of the groups get along, and some it's true. The Republican Party in this county,
Bill Ask was all pissed off at John Whaler. For what? Come on, guys, grow up, chill, man.
Yeah.
Hey, let me tell you something. Jerry and Connie Smith, I adore. They were doing their protest thing. I said, I'll get the news media out there. Mike Stein from Fox News 35, one of my best buddies. I called him up. Fox News 35 was out there that Friday. I said, I don't want anything in return. You ask for a favor, I'll do it for you. I like it. I mean, they weren't out there trying to protest. It was just, and Mike was like, we don't want people to broke the story. Thanks for the effort. My point is, I'm not here to have an ego fest. I don't want to take over a group. No. I'm already Don Corleone. I'm Kaiser Sose, okay? Hey, let me get Will Smith. And I just promote a good cause. That's all I like.
Yeah, and they're all good people, and they all have the right goal in mind, which is to make America better. I mean, in all of them. Some people, people are people. There's friction between people. Some people act different. I'm not the touchy-feely guy. People say that I'm too hardcore. Well, I'm not a touchy-feely guy. I'm an accountant. I mean, I'm a end result type of person.
$53 minutes after the top of the hour, the Ed Dean Radio Show. You can watch us live on the air at eddeanradio.com, eddeanradio.com, or listen to us at spaceghostdaily.com/ed. 2 weeks, or 12 days, we'll have election night coverage here at the studios. It's been an annual tradition since 92, 93, so we will do it again this year. Michael Hartman, one of the candidates on the Republican side, running for a county commission in District 2, electmichaelhartman.com. Okay. It's 12 days away. Let's get on with it. Are you the establishment candidate? Are you a grassroots candidate? Are you the Charlie Crist, the people's candidate? You had to put an adjective before candidate. What name do you use?
I'd use grassroots.
Okay.
I'm definitely not the establishment candidate. If you go and look at who's contributing to each of the candidates, it'll become very clear to everybody who the establishment candidate is.
Chuck Sheridan? I'm just kidding.
No, it's not Chuck. I will say it's not Chuck. I think you can look at that for yourself. So, no, I have been funding my own campaign for the most part. I have certain friends and supporters, just like other people. But if you look at it, most of my money has come from my own pocket because I'm not doing this for anybody else. I'm not doing this for my own ego. I just looked at it, and we had a problem at the Housing Authority We worked hard at it. We fixed it. Went from spending 100 hours a month at the housing authority to maybe 2 hours a month now. So I looked around and I said, is there anything else I could do?
But you know what's weird? It's that I've seen candidates that are conservative, and yet all the Republican establishment can like him, maybe because he's a good business guy, but he's a conservative all the way. But if you got the endorsement of the Republican Party, you're an establishment guy. I know what you mean. There's a difference between establishment and grassroots. Just sometimes you can't win. I'm just kind of curious what you thought you were on this side. Grassroots.
And realistically, the Republican Party, which I remember years ago, we remember in the Jim Greer days, they were picking people before the primary. And now the Republican Party, as a party, has said, no, we're going to stay out of it, and we will wait until the people pick a candidate, and then we will back that person in the general election. That's good. When I say the establishment, I'm looking more at the business establishment.
What groups in Brevard County, political groups, do you believe get a bad rap?
Bad rap?
I mean, got all these groups starting up now. Brevard's Voice, Brevard Business Outrage, Space Coast Liberty.
The ones that get a bad rap are the ones that are considered conservative. And anybody who's conservative, they try to label Tea Party as if that's a pejorative. And it's bad, okay? You can look, the Brevard 912, Brevard Tea Party, Space Coast Patriots, Republican Liberty Caucus, Ronald Reagan Club. People try to say that they're fringe groups, but when you look at it, for instance, when you're talking about the EDC and about economic development, there was an article in one of the online papers recently that compared the stances of the candidates and other people that are in politics in this county, in the Republican Party, compared it to the National Republican Party platform. And when you really look at it, the people such as myself who would rather see everybody benefit than a select few, we reflect more of the mainstream ideas of the Republican Party, and the people who like the fact that we're giving away benefits to big corporations as opposed to having a tax cut for everybody, they're more of the fringe people, according to this news article. I just like to think that I reflect what the average citizen wants, because that's who I am. The average citizen needed somebody to fight for him. I don't think anybody on the county commission government is really listening to the average citizen nowadays. And if we try to change things from the outside, it's not going to happen. We've seen it over the last 2 years at the county commission. So we have to get one of us up on the dais, and that's why I'm running.
The date is August 26th. It is 12 days away. And let me tell you something, folks. It's pitiful. 21% has returned their absentees. I told everybody, because I know numbers, 50% is not voting absentee, which means either they ain't showing to the polls, candidates haven't done a good job bringing them to the polls or getting them ideas or whatever, or they're just, most people are going to try to vote the day of Election Day. So,
well, and you're going to see early voting also. Early voting starts Saturday, and I think you'll see about 15% of the people vote there.
All right. Michael Hart, good to see you.
Thanks for coming.
Like MichaelHartman.com. Come up next, Kevin Derby and the Sunshine State News, Southeastern Legal Foundation, Shannon Gessling. Jeb Bush comes out against medical marijuana, but is it enough to stop that? Back in a few moments on the Ed Dean Radio Show.
Enjoyed it as
They
always.
ran the whole hour, man. It was good. We could have done 2 hours.
Oh, I'll tell you.
All right. And then
there's so much to discuss that needs to be discussed.
if you want to, I'll bring up crash on that stage. I mean, if you want, you don't have. I mean, like Ben will come in for a few minutes if you got time.
Yeah, let's see. Probably Wednesday or Thursday. Probably a good day. Kicking your fan over there. So absolutely enjoyed it as always, man. Absolutely. I'll give you a holler.
Thank you, brother.
All right. I don't know why Bookhart didn't show up. I'll link with that out there.
All right. It's poor guy. Don't worry about it.
You doing it? Hey, so I was talking with one of my best buddies today, who used to work here, who was an old board op of yours. You remember? His name was Andrew Wojcik. It was back when you were working at Melbourne. Black guy who did board op on weekends for you. This was got to be about a good 7 or 8 years ago. I don't know if you remember.
Dude, Andrew Wojcik. I know of the name. I think he might even be on my Facebook.
All right.
Dude, I know of him.
Okay. Because we were talking about this morning. Lorraine called and she goes, "Is Johnny in yet?" No, not yet. She's like, she wanted to add an extra hour because apparently she got Bill Posey, but she already had a guest booked. Which I literally had to put the phone away and do that.
Yeah, Lorraine, listen, Lorraine's a dork. That's why I keep her.
Yes.
Her husband's a nice, super nice guy.
Yeah.
But she's an absolute.
So
Andrew, I know of Andrew. I'm just trying to remember because Andrew, I think Andrew probably would come in part time a couple days during the week.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I'm just trying to think about that.
He told me he worked for you, Cerny,
Oh,
and there was another guy. He couldn't remember his name because we were talking about this. He was like 50 years oldish, tan, and was trying to pull off like the old Elvis hairdo. He couldn't remember what his name was. He said he used to have like 2 or 3 younger girls on his show all the time, and the name was escaping him. I'm like, I'm gonna talk to Ed later.
his name was probably Pete Murphy. It's creepy.
I'll text him that.
Yeah, the family does say hi, man.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, see, we remember some of those freaking people.
It was. So I told John, I said, so was your response no or hell fucking?
Yeah.
Just a second.
Yeah.
That's about right.
I'm like, if you get Bill Posey on the show, maybe you could move to the other one. Yeah. Unless it's, I don't know, Bill Gates.
Yeah. Good point on that one. So, how did you work last night?
Oh, I'm not lying, are you?
Just on the webcast, which is okay.
Oh.
How did you work last night?
Oh, we were lucky.
Don't worry about it. It's down. I turned it down.
Oh, you're muted?
Yeah.
Wonderful thing was, they were done before 11 last night.
Really?
Oh, yeah, they killed him. 10-1. So, and the weird thing was, I was dead this morning. I was actually somewhat okay yesterday morning, coming in after getting home at 1:30. And I'm driving up, and I'm like, I got to about Barnes Boulevard. I'm like, wait, we'll put the radio on. Oh, I'm not in it.
Oh man, what's that? Did you come in this morning too?
Oh yeah, I do
What time
the
do you come
morning
in?
board, so.
See, I also do the morning radio for some of the Clear Channel stations in South Florida. Well, I go down to the Vero studios. We have private, nice private. These are nice. I like these. We get nice ones down there.
Is it along US 1?
No. This is no. This is more near in Vero Beach, near nice area down there.
Okay. And I know there's a Clear Channel spot where like 94.7 and the country station.
No, ours is 107.9, 1370.
Oh, okay, that one. All right.
Yeah. So I go down there. They wanted me to come. I was just gonna set up a tape, but they wanted me to come live. So I'm like, oh my gosh. So I'm up at 4 o'clock in the morning. But I mean, to find stuff during the day, do this. So I feel you because you're here like what time? 8 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
After being one. Yeah. So you probably get, if you're lucky, what, 5-6 hours sleep a night?
Oh, if that.
If that. You're like, I mean, yeah.
When I get in, it's usually get the power back on, get all the lights going, set up for the guests, then update the promos for the shows for the dailies. Ray's report is in. Our 10 a.m. we actually do a software hookup because I think Tom moved out to California now. I think he's fully moved out.
Really?
So we use Audio Compass, and I check in with him to make sure the connection's strong, and just leave it on. And
Tom moved out to California, really?
or he's about to. He either was
I like
just,
Tom. Tom's a nice guy.
Oh, ego-free guy.
Yeah.
He's fantastic to work with. So I can make sure he's hooked up, then get Lillian's guest set up, get her set up, make sure the levels are everything. So I get in here at 8, and it's non-stop work with her.
She okay to work with?
Oh, there's some days where if you've got to rein her in a little bit and go, you have to trust me on this.
Yeah,
I promise you it's going to work.
I'm with you on that. Like today, I
But it's not difficult.
told John, I said I had to go get a suit because I'm on Newsmax TV, which is huge, and so I don't wear clothes when I go freaking trying to suit, so I can get them in, get them off, and I was down in Vero, so it's okay and stuff like that. So, anyways,
I
but
think we're coming back
you work all weekend too?
this weekend. Yeah.
Make that money. Hooah! Only you can make the things I do. Test. All right, brother. Hey, do you know that guy from Light? Do you know that guy from Lighthouse Retirement? Yeah. Yes. We got to talk about that. Does Jerry know him? You know? Does he know Martin? Well, I got a phone call from the guy last week. I'll tape it after the show. Hour number 2 of the Ed Dean Radio Show, the #1 radio talk show anywhere in the state. By the way, the old days, when we passed medical marijuana events, it'd be like, this is the Ed Dean Radio Show. And my name's Vince Young, and I'm a libertarian, and I'm proving why I'm a libertarian. I'm smoking weed. No, I don't support it, and I will not vote for it. I'm not going to vote for Amendment 2. I don't like the legalization of marijuana, just because I hate the smell of it. I don't want these guys on the road, but it's just the thing is so vague, and we joke around with this, but I'm not voting for it. I'm just making fun of some radio guys. That's all. I call them libertarians. Speaking of liberals, Kevin Derby's on the phone with us. Kevin, are you a liberal? I can't hear him. I'm sorry. No, Kevin's a liberal of the 1930s type of a liberal, right, Kevin? Wait. Liberals in the 30s were conservative, dude. Okay. I'm off by 100 years. Big deal. Okay. Well, constitutionalist attitude has changed, and the name has changed over the last 100 plus. All right. All right, hour number 2 of the Ed Dean Radio Show. The email address, eddeanradio@gmail.com, eddeanradio@gmail.com. You can watch me live on the air at eddeanradio.com. That's eddeanradio.com. You can also catch the show there. Also, our friends at SpaceCoastDaily.com. Kevin Derby from the SunshineStateNews.com here. So Jeb Bush came out today. Did you tell me? I mean, you're breaking the story because I don't see much of it. So Jeb Bush has come out against Amendment 2, the medical marijuana, correct? Right. Why did they come out against it? All right. So I mean, you think Jeb's going to have any influence one way or the other? Let's talk Kevin Durbin from SunshineStateNews.com here on the Ed Gein radio show. The Miami Herald came out with an article this past week that says that the feds warn almost 94,000 Floridians that they've got to prove their immigration status or they're going to lose Obamacare. Now remember, 7.5, 8 million people signed up for Obamacare. The administration won't tell you who's paid and who hasn't paid. But remember, the feds came out about 2.5, 3 months ago that sat back and said, well, out of those whatever 8 million, at least 2 million have not properly laid out the right paperwork because their tax numbers don't match up what we have on record, and a lot of these people have not proven that they're a legal citizen here. I think that when you look at the beginning of the year, it was just, I mean, even last year, bad news for Obamacare. Even the liberal media was going after him about the website. As I've said many times before, the website's probably the only good thing about Obamacare, because, you know, but that they hit their numbers. I sat back, and you and I were talking about this at the beginning of the year. I sat back and said, okay, there's been a lot of hype about the rollout of Obamacare. Unless there is some other news that comes out, this thing will kind of fade away until we hear more about the price hikes in 2015, 2016. Miami Herald came out last week. The Weekly Standard, the AP out of Florida. Now Politico has done an article that talks about double-digit rate hikes coming for Floridians in 2015. I promise you, this is going to make the news in the political roundup coming up here in the next couple months. When last night we were talking about the All Aboard Florida. I know Carl Domino in this big race down against Patrick Murphy. It's a great ad they put in Charlie Chris with his kind of like his hand on the shoulder of Carl Domino talking about the Chris's passenger train for All Aboard Florida. Now it's not really Chris's passenger train, and it's not Thad Altman's, it's not Carl Domino's here. But the bottom line is does this issue among the Space Coast, the Treasure Coast, West Palm, the Gold Coast, does this All Aboard Florida, is this starting to become a top-tier issue? Does it become a more decisive one in a 5-6 man race? right? Yeah, anybody but Bill Nelson, Mr. Weekend at Bernie's here. Oh yeah, listen. I think you're right. I think the on the board Florida plays a big key in a like the Thad Altman versus Monique Miller. Yes and no, but I think more of a 4 to 5 man race it does because a lot of Republicans will normally talk about the same issues, agree on the same issues, and they need something to differentiate themselves between each other. I think it depends. I just don't see a lot of support for the train. And if you're for it or you funded a train in the past before, that kind of makes you guilt by association with this train. All right, Kevin Derby from the Sunshine State News. Go to sunshinestatenews.com. As always, thank you for coming on today. All right, coming up in a few minutes, I got Shannon Gessling from the Southeastern Legal Foundation. Can I throw a quick question out there? Is more experience the best way to go? Yes and no. Let me tell you where I think it might be the best way to go in some certain political seats. I'll explain why in a minute. This is the Ed Dean Radio Show on WMEL. Pretty. Go with Christopher Cross. Yeah, you may have to. I don't know if the song pick up. You may have to fast forward. I don't know. I can't remember. Thanks, bro. All right. More of the Ed Dean Radio Show. Thanks so much for tuning in. You know, I'm really surprised, and I'll explain what I mean here. I look at a lot of these candidates. What I see, I'm not saying whether you agree with it or not, I'm seeing business candidates, grassroots candidates. Doesn't mean they're great candidates. I know a lot of people that call themselves grassroots candidates that just they're not worth the ground that they walk on, though they think they are. They think they can basically just move like the wind. No pun intended. But I sit back and go, where are the crop of candidates I thought would have run for some of these county commission races, some of these state house races, some of these school board races? Usually you see city council people wanting to move up to a county commission race. Except for maybe the Greg Jones race in District 4, I'm not seeing that right now. I've always said that who wants a bunch of elected officials? Who wants a bunch of career politicians? Let me play the devil's advocate here for you, where in some cases that might be warranted. I'll give you a reason why. There is always an issue of the best individual to run for president should be the executive of a state. That is a governor. Why? Because governors do not like the nonsense that D.C. pulls on the states. And so if they're president, they know what it's like being dumped on. They wouldn't do the same if they were president. A city council person, I would think, now follow me, would make a decent state representative. Why? Because Tallahassee dumps on city councils through ridiculous and unfunded mandates. So the city elected official or the county commissioner would make a decent or a fine state senator or a fine state representative because they didn't like being dumped on. Then they themselves feel their pain, would not want to dump all this nonsense on people where they used to be. Does that make sense? All right. But in a lot of cases, it's not the case. You vote for the man. You vote for the man or woman that agrees with your issues. Not you agree with them. Do they agree with you? It's like, say, I'm going to a restaurant. You ever had and by the way, folks, when you go to a restaurant, stop asking a waiter if it's good. Stop asking a waiter what's good. People like to be stroked. When a waiter says, sir, that's a good choice, it's not whether I agree with that candidate. I want to know, does he agree with me? You've heard the old saying, it's not whether I'm on God's side, is God on my side? That's what I need to know. I don't care about the candidate. I want to know that the candidate agrees with me, because a lot of us sit back in our chair and we go, hey, that guy thinks like I do. It's like going to a restaurant. Yes, sir, that was but I like that. That's a good decision. It's not like you did a push pull. You try to make him agree with you. He comes out and says, hey, the Shrimp Louisiana at the Yellow Dog restaurant, one of my favorite restaurants. I go there quite routinely. I want that. And the server says that's a good choice. Voters love hearing that. And yet the ego, you ever notice when somebody, not when they become elected, but when they run for office, it's like their IQ just jumped up about 100 points? You ever notice that? The bottom line here is that in some ways it depends on the individual. I think there's a need to have a little bit of experience if you know that the guy that goes along with your attitude of smaller, efficient government, no more of this nonsense on a school board, no more of these unfunded mandates being told by Tallahassee what we have to do with our taxes and stuff. That type of a guy in a city council or a county commission, I'm voting for that guy if he's running for a state office. But I must tell you, most of these people in the county commission and city council, I ain't voting for, because they should have that attitude that we didn't like being dumped on by government. We're not gonna dump all this nonsense on other individuals, like the county commissions or school board or city council, when we become a state house or state senator. But because many elected officials just, their next goal is to get elected to a higher office, it's the ego. The ones that I would like to see, the conservative ones on the city council that knows that small government's good, they don't exist. I got news for you, folks. I'm voting for the non-already elected official. I will go with a business type of a mentality. Because unfortunately, it's really the only thing we got going on today. And when I look at a lot of this, and I look at the way people view, I go with the guys whose issues
agree with mine, not if I agree with his. All right. And yet, you would think, seriously now,
Would you not think that the type of candidacy
that you would like, sorry, I guess I got the wrong answer, the type of candidacy that you would enjoy would be already from an elected official who does not like Tallahassee telling the local city council what to do? I think if that's the case, I want to put that city councilman into a county commission seat. If the county commissioner does not like the way, whether it's a Democrat or Republican, the way that Tallahassee's telling them how to run their state, their community, that they must abide by higher taxes from Tallahassee, they must deal with unfunded mandates, I would think that that county commissioner who doesn't like the local citizen being dumped on through regulations and more environmental nonsense, that guy would make a great state senator or a state representative. And unfortunately, those guys are few and far between. So when many of you sit back and go, well, why didn't that guy run or she run for school board? Why didn't that guy or gal run for this position? Or why aren't they being elected? Because as I said before, I think I can count them on one or two fingers. The individual who fights for smaller and more efficient government, who should move up the ladder, is very few and far between. And because of that, that is the reason why I will take a chance with somebody unknown, but at least has the right passion, can get his message out, and who can win with the facts and by building grassroots support out there. So if you're not an elected official running for office that agrees with my, again, it's not whether I agree with you. Do you agree with me? Then I will take a chance on an unknown. Like many of you took a chance with an unknown with me years ago. And now I'm known like coast to coast, like butter and toast. All right, it is the Ed Dean Radio Show. Back in a few moments, my good friend Shannon Gessling from the Southeastern Legal Foundation. This is the Ed Dean Radio Show on WMEL.
You like that one? That was good, huh?
Hey, let's go with hey, Vince. Let's go with Calvin Harris. You'll like this next one coming up when I'm back on the air. Well, before, but it's a decent song. I mean, before, yeah. Oh, did I? Okay, cool. Thank you, sir. All right, 30, 40 minutes after the top of the hour, everybody's sending me emails. Boy, Ed, you sure are confident. Hey, listen. All right, you ready? Listen. I don't mean to brag. I don't mean to boast, but I like hot butter on my breakfast toast. Okay, so there. All right. More of the Ed Dean, if you like that one, don't you, Jerry? All right, more of the Ed Dean radio show, broadcasting all throughout the state. We're broadcasting live. Jerry shows up early just so he can hear my jokes. All right, which is good. I'm flattered. Anyways, more of the Ed Dean. True. Jerry, I am not a stand-up comedian. I'm a sit-down comedian, all right? So there. All right, more of the Ed Dean Radio Show. We're broadcasting live out of our flagship station, 1300WMEL.com. If you want to watch me live on the air, go to eddeanradio.com, eddeanradio.com. The email address, eddeanradio@gmail, eddeanradio@gmail. My good friend, my very good friend, the executive director of the Southeastern Legal Foundation, their website, southeasternlegal.org, Shannon Gessling. How are you this evening? I am doing very good. Okay, so there was this Hobby Lobby lawsuit. All right, they won on that. There's another one about the subsidies, whether the federal government can't do it through the Medicaid expansion. It has to be done through the states. What other rumors have we heard that may be coming around the corner this year, next year, the year after, about a more Obamacare lawsuits? What's going on?
Right. All right, let me interrupt here. All right, what you're saying is, without putting words in your mouth, you want to do something about Obamacare, then you need to elect people that don't like Obamacare in the House and the Senate, and the only way to get it done is to repeal it. Am I right or wrong? Okay. Well, I agree. I mean, I've seen you guys do it against the EPA, rightfully so, because they make up rules as they go along. And I wish Congress could be a barrier and stop a lot of this nonsense, which is what is in their constitutional powers. And again, these guys don't do it. So we need to have people like you, which are very successful what you do, to put a halt to what these federal powers are expanding way more than what they're authorized. Okay. All right. Shannon Gessling from the Southeastern Legal Foundation, the website southeasternlegal.org. You know, the president certainly has overstepped his boundaries. If anybody else in the administration has done twice the amount of his, or even more in your face, is Eric Holder. Are you surprised that, and I'm not advocating this, I'm just surprised that there hasn't been much more harsh language against him? I mean, there are no calls for impeachment. I mean, he kind of basically he'll show up when, of course, he's being subpoenaed here. I mean, are you surprised that he's been allowed to get away with as much as he has with his administration? And Congress, of course, has verbally called him out on it, but nothing like in the legal sense. I mean, you got to admit that I mean, I know in the 2000s, Democrats wanted to go after John Ashcroft for overstepping his boundaries on the Patriot Act. Okay, whatever interesting article there. But you must admit, when you look at Eric Holder, it's been story after story. I mean, if the Republicans were to come around, sit back, and itch and complain about one issue, people get tired of that. But when you got Fast and Furious, you got problems in the IRS scandal with Lois Lane Lerner. You've got problems going on with, well, not so much Edward Snowden, but also with, no, not even the VA, but okay, IRS, Fast and Furious. What else do we have? I mean, we got 10 other scandals. I mean, it just keeps coming and coming and coming. It's almost, you can almost write a novel about this. Give me some of with about 5 minutes left here, so we have time. Tell me some observation you have. What are we seeing down the road? Do you think, or what you hear later this year when the Supreme Court meets up again, or next year? What kind of lawsuits are we looking at that will turn around and hopefully be pro-consumer or pro more of keeping your health care? I mean, what are lawsuits that are going to be very interesting for the public to be watching here very soon? Right. All right. Well, I'm glad to. Okay, it just gives me some food for thought. Shannon Gessling from the Southeastern Legal Foundation. The website is southeasternlegal.org. Southeasternlegal.org. Thanks for making the time. I appreciate you coming on today, as always. You got it. No, I love having you come on. Have her on next week. All right. Thanks for coming on. So, I like. she's like one of these who's really just book and street smart. There is a difference, guys. Okay, and the beauty about it is I always like hearing about lawsuits. Now, many of you, I'll tell you this right now, I'm not a fan of having lawsuits overturn a law here, overturn a law there. The bottom line, I don't care whether you agree with same-sex marriage or not. It was done by the will of the people. If the people voted it in, you don't like it, then vote it back out. Well, then, wouldn't that be the case with Obamacare? Here's the difference. The people directly did not vote in favor of Obamacare. I know the representatives did. But guess what? At least I'm consistent. At least I'm honest. And the honesty is Barack Obama won re-election. And I will tell you this right now, that unfortunately, and listen to my Republican friends out there that keep saying, repeal, 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 amen, guys. But after 50, after 20, if you ain't got the Senate, I mean, unless you sue for certain, and I understand why there's a lawsuit against Obamacare, because we had to pass the bill in order to know what was in the bill. It was a bad bill. So I guess what I'm getting at is that, I mean, unless you win the Senate or whatever, you're not going to get rid of it. Back in a few moments, this is the Ed Dean Radio Show. I'm telling you, man, that is Bill Clinton on the saxophone, brother. And by proving that he can play the saxophone, proving that he did inhale. You know what I'm saying there? What's that? That's right there, man. That's right. We used to hail all the time. There being, it was like Jane Doe number 10, 11, 12. Yeah, a lot of Jane Does around Bill Clinton. I had true story. I've, most of these Fox News people I've interviewed, they come on the show. Most of the people you hear, I have a lot of local guests, but a lot of national guests as well. And Vince Dix Morris is just, the guy's got no credibility. But so I was having lunch. I had to go down to, after my morning show, I had to go down to near Boynton Beach last week. Meet with another radio station owner. They're all big fans of the show. We're having lunch last week, and somehow the name Dick Morris came up. And he goes, yeah, because I had Dick Morris on the air, and he goes, we were talking off the air. And the question is did and I'll keep this clean, of course, for the audience. Did Clinton really, was he just one of those always in the mood? He goes, that guy touched everything and anything that moved. And I was like, okay, whatever. But here's an interesting question. If you're a bad husband, does that make you a bad politician? Interesting. What if you're getting your spouse a surprise? You don't want to know about it. Is it okay? All right. Listen, the next flippin' Republican that does an anti-Charlie Crist ad, I'm going to spit out something here. Listen, Charlie Crist, I can name you 15 issues like that he's flip-flop on. I mean, the guy's an orange. But who cares? He looks like an orange. All right? Him too. Minus the cigarettes with Charlie. But listen, to all these Republicans, Charlie Crist left the state, economic. Listen, you Republicans, with all due respect, you voted for everything. By the way, all these guys that are in House, that are in the state House now for the most part, in the state Senate, we're all in the state Senate, the state legislature, the state House, same thing. When Charlie Crist was governor, and they all gave him about 90% of everything they wanted. The tax increase in car registration, the Republicans gave it to him. The tax hikes on the driver's licenses, the Republicans gave it to him. The stimulus, the Republicans gave it to him. The tax hike on cigarettes, which is much bigger than that for Barack Obama, the Republicans gave it to Charlie Crist. The hikes on the fishing licenses, hunting licenses, guess what? It was Charlie Crist, yeah, but he had to get votes, and the Republicans gave him everything, for the most part, that he wanted. So the next Republicans who talk bad mouth about Charlie Crist, and I understand why, hypocrisy. I don't mean to be rude. No, they can't stand the guy that they were fully embracing. Okay. Who embracing who? Well, the Democrat. Oh yeah, that's true. But I mean, the Republicans didn't like him 3.5 years ago. I mean, some of these guys were supporting him over Marco, even when he, went to become an independent after he told everybody he wasn't going to do it. Hey, Chris, I'm a Ronald Reagan conservative. Sarah Palin will be great as the vice president. I'm staying into the primary all the way. And then he jumped out in April. All right, so he lied. We all knew that. So anyway, so the orange Charlie Crist, Mr. Stimulus, you know where he's coming from. But for all these Republicans to act like so surprised, like somebody just walked over their grave, Johnny Ringo. I mean, come on, give me a flipping break here. And the Democrats are just as bad because they've accepted somebody. I mean, their goal is they want to beat Rick Scott so bad. As I said before, they believe that Charlie should be up by 15 points. In reality, Rick Scott should be up about 20 points because of the economy. So I'm just not impressed with the Republicans. They can't tell you 3 or 4 different reasons why. Because they all gave Charlie Crist what he wanted. All right. Vince Young, good seeing you again today, brother. I'll see you tomorrow. All right. The email address, eddeanradio@gmail.com, because I am a straight up G. eddeanradio@gmail.com. We'll see you tomorrow here on the Talk to Me station, AM 1300 WMEL.